You are listening to the Prosperous Law Podcast. Learn how to reduce stress, have more time, and make more money. Come on in.
I'm Greg McCollum, and I built a 7-figure criminal defense law firm. I formed Prosperous Law to show criminal defense law firm owners who are desperate for success how to grow from under $200,000 to $1 million and beyond. Hi, I'm Greg McCollum, back here for another edition of the Prosperous Law Podcast. Thanks for joining me. Today's topic, the thing I want to talk about today, is, do you schedule interruptions? In other words, do you schedule your day? Do you schedule your day so that interruptions either stop happening altogether or you get interrupted a lot less? And the idea here is that to work on your business and make your business better, to improve your business, to make your business run better and operate more efficiently, which will give you some peace of mind. It'll help you make more revenue. It'll help you make better decisions. It'll help you lead your people better if you have the ability to grow your business and work on your business. So there's two things that happen in a law firm. One is the work, that's the handling the files, dealing with the clients, dealing with the court schedule and all of that. That's the work. That's the work that you're set up to do. If you just do that work and do it really well for 5 or 10 years, then at the end of those 5 or 10 years, your business will pretty much be the same. Now, the way the world changes and the way that technology changes and the way that legal services are delivered and all of that will change. And so if you don't change with it, perhaps your business will actually be declining. So the idea here is that if you're not working on your business, if you're not working on creating systems and putting in processes and repeatable processes that apply to everything that you do, you're not getting better. So it's like a sports team, say, that never gets any better. They're just the same, but they do worse because teams around them that they play are getting better. So there's a thing in your business, and this applies to any business, and I don't think this is necessarily unique to law firms at all, but law firms too can be very hectic because everything that you're doing is so important. If a client is unhappy, if a client doesn't understand something, they need the answer. If the court schedule is happening and you're not there, and you've been called to court and you're a no-show, that's borderline, catastrophic. You cannot make that kind of mistake. If the bank calls you and sends you an email and says your accounts are overdrawn, or God forbid, something's wrong with your trust account, that's catastrophic. And so it's easy to spend your day when you get to work. First of all, you went home, you probably worried about it all night, and you may be the only person in your law practice that is worried about it, and that's a different problem. But then you come in and these things are just being fired at you. You're just taking shots. You're the so-called answer man, or you're the answer woman, and everything that's happening, from little decisions to big decisions, everything comes to you. And so what does that do? You get in this whirlwind, and my practice was like this, I'm embarrassed to say, for a long time, probably decades, where almost nothing happened without me having to make some type of decision about it. And that's because the people that worked for me didn't have the proper training, didn't understand the processes, and didn't know what to do. So everything was what I call a one-off, where every problem, every case, every solution, every phone call was seen as unique and not something that repeats. And so what's the whirlwind? The whirlwind is that I get up, I get ready for work, I go in the office, and I open the door and walk in, and people pounce on me. They jump me. And they want the answer. I have the answer. They want to know what to do. And so they see that as they're doing a good job. I want to make sure that you know about this, Greg. I want to make sure that we're doing this right. Look at this letter. Is this okay? You need to call somebody back. He's worried about his appointment. He wants to talk to you before his appointment. And so I can't even get in the office. So let's say I want to go in and maybe I'm the kind of person where I'm going to go in, and I used to do this, I'm going to have a cup of coffee. It's starting my day. I want to have a cup of coffee, and I'd like to be able to walk in there and actually walk back to my office and put my stuff down and then go pour a cup of coffee and have like a moment of peace. But I'm in that whirlwind. And the whirlwind goes on all day. Phone is ringing. Maybe people came in unannounced. Somebody called. I need to call them back. Or even I called somebody and they called me back. So what am I going to do now? Not take the call? So then at the end of the day, I'm worn out. I'm exhausted. I go home. I do something else. Maybe I go to the gym, or maybe I exercise, or maybe I go home and have a beer, or maybe I go home and, pop on the television because I'm spent, okay? And people hate Monday. So that's just Monday, say. So then I know that's also Tuesday. And then that's Wednesday. And so, why is Wednesday hump day? For me, it was because, if I get through Wednesday, I only have 2 more days of this. And then I get hopefully some to recharge my batteries a little bit over the weekend. And then Monday's coming. Why do we dread Monday? We dread Monday because as practicing lawyers or even as small business owners, that's what Monday looks like. I remember growing up, my dad was like the service manager at Firestone. And then later he was the general manager of that same store. I think he worked there over 40 years. And my dad was exhausted. My dad was spent. And I remember in high school and college, I worked over there some part-time. Customers would come in and what are they going to do? They're going to buy some tires, or they're going to get their car serviced, or they have a question, but they would not talk to anyone but my dad. And everybody loved my dad, and my dad did a great job for the company, but everything had to go through him, and he would get this barrage every time he walked in the building. Now, the way my dad did it is later in his career, he would find some excuse to go somewhere, or maybe somebody needed to make a delivery of some tires or something, which clearly wasn't his job, and he would just offer to do it. So he would just throw something in the back of the company pickup truck or something and just drive off to do it because there were no mobile phones back then. And so I understand now that was the only time he had any peace whatsoever, because as soon as he got back in that store, that was going to happen again. And that's the way my law firm was. And that's the way it was for years. And that's because we didn't have any processes or systems to accomplish anything. But it's also because I had some, C and D employees. People were not competent, or their level of competence was so bad that they were never going to get any better. Even if I had the perfect systems, even if I had the perfect job description, which I didn't. I didn't have really hardly any systems. I didn't have any job descriptions. I didn't have any delegation of authority. So one person was responsible for that thing. So if it doesn't get done or it's all screwed up, you know who to hold accountable and who to try to train. And you try to train them to do it and train them to do it, but at some point they've got to go if that's the situation. So I know a lot of lawyers, and they're good lawyers. They're fantastic lawyers, but their day is like this. They're in the whirlwind. So what's going to change in their life? With lawyers, it's pretty sad. I mean, lawyers get disbarred, lawyers commit suicide, lawyers become substance abusers, and it's just prevalent in our profession, and it's because of the stress and because of this, because there's no solution to this whirlwind. So the topic is schedule interruptions. So multiple ways to do this, but what I'm talking about here today is that get your calendar, and hopefully you have a calendar that everybody works off of. And in our office, we have an online or digital calendar that we can, like I could go on my phone or my computer right now and look at our calendar and see who's doing what and where, because it's put on there in such a way that I don't have to ask somebody, hey, what's my lawyer Bill McIntosh doing today? It's on the calendar with a little description. He can look at it, obviously. And so first of all, and will this work if you don't have a calendar? Probably not, because you're going to have a schedule, and it's going to have to be something that people are aware of. You could just go in your office and turn off the phone and close the door, and that would sort of accomplish something. But what I'm talking about is having a schedule so that you sit down by yourself without really a lot of input from anybody else. You can get input later if it's causing a problem. You sit down by yourself with your calendar and you think about your day. You think about, where do I have to be on Monday, and is there a time to schedule myself out? Because what you'll find, I think, is there are certain times of the day or certain days that work better than others. And then what you can do is you can tell your staff, you can tell your people, if somebody puts something on the calendar for you, hopefully that's somebody else's job and not your job. Say, these are the times that I'm going to be in my workspace. These are the times that I'm going to be in the office, but I'm not going to be accessible. That I'm not going to have 100% open door policy. I'm going to have times on my calendar where I'm in my office doing something. You don't even have to tell them what you're doing. You're just, quote, working. But I'm not talking about you're prepping a case. I'm not talking about you're in the office reading the files and doing the work. I'm talking about you carve out some bit of time where your door is closed and it's on the calendar. And some people hang these door hangers. I've been to seminars where they gave us a door hanger that said something like, work in progress, do not disturb, or, some of them were crazy and said like genius at work, which is, maybe a little bit much, where people know for some period of time during that week that you're inaccessible. And that means if someone calls you who has to talk to you, it could be in a criminal defense practice, it could be a judge, it could be a prosecutor you've been trying to reach, It could be somebody else that you called back, that it's important, but realistically, it can wait. It can wait an hour. It can probably wait 2 or 3 hours, but most of those things can wait. And so to do this effectively, even if the people that work for you don't understand this concept of urgent versus important, at least you become aware of it and start to grasp that. Because some things are urgent, but they're not important. They seem urgent, and a lot of that has to do with people just getting excited about something like, can you believe this happened? But it's not that urgent, or it is urgent, but it's not important. Other things are extremely important, but they're not urgent. But you put that time on the calendar, you put that rock down in the stream, you put that boulder down so that other people and life have to go around it. Now, you also have to enforce it. And if somebody buzzes you on the phone or said, oh, this is really important, what do you do? Or somebody comes and knocks on your door and says, oh, I think you need to do this. And some of the things that can be very serious, that if you look at really successful people, where even they tell somebody, I have children, so, your daughter was in a wreck, or your mom slipped and fell. Even some of those things sometimes can wait an hour, because if my daughter was in a wreck, I would probably want somebody to interrupt me, right? When the school calls, we tend to take that call. But the calls, for me, they do get directed off of my mobile phone because it says to call the office. And so if I'm inaccessible, but my office knows where I am or what I'm doing, then the message says call the school, or my daughters know, the message says call the office. So if the school's calling and they get my voicemail, it says, if you're unable to reach me, call this number, and someone would answer the phone. So then that would happen, and they would come knock on my door and tell me something, sometimes very important and very urgent. But overall, even if you're sitting there thinking, well, Greg, sounds great, but I can't do it. It just won't work in my life. And I thought about this a little bit, because let's say that you do court work. Let's say you do litigation work, or you have that kind of work, and so it involves judges. And so a judge calls and wants to talk to you about something. You can't not take the judge's call, but there's a difference between not taking the judge's call and not taking it right that moment. Because if the judge calls and needs to speak to you about something, then if the competent people that work for you and answer the phone say, Judge, he's tied up right now, he'll be available in an hour, he'll be available in an hour and a half, is that okay? Or if they say, Judge, Greg is he's tied up right now, he's in a meeting or he's doing something, he'll be tied up for an hour and a half, is it okay if he calls you back then? I think the judge will say, yeah, that's fine. Ask him to give me a call when he can. What's more likely to happen, though, I believe, is that, first of all, because the ex parte communication is not allowed, the judge can't call me and talk to me about the case because there are rules against that. Probably it wasn't the judge calling anyway. It was probably the judge's secretary or the judge's law clerk. And probably what they were calling about was just to set up a meeting, whether it's going to be a Zoom meeting or it's going to be a phone call, or whether I or somebody needs to go down to the courthouse and sit in the judge's chamber with him or her, they're probably just calling to schedule it anyway. And so it's probably not as urgent as you think. It's important. It's extremely important. You don't want to be in your office, with the door closed working on your business, and then the next day find out the judge was trying to schedule a meeting and he cannot reach you. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about having the sanctity to be able to go into your space and implement things or think about how to implement things that will grow your business, that will grow your law firm, that will make your law firm more profitable, that will bring in more revenue, that will give you a better law firm. So your law firm is better next month than it was this month because you did one thing to make it better. So in this kind of situation, if you look at it and you say, well, Greg, that's great. I've been wanting to do that for years or months, and I know I need to do it, but I just can't do it. Then start off in a small way. You don't have to revolutionize your calendar. If it's something that you haven't been doing at all, then set up one day. And this seems ridiculous for me to even have to say this, but set up 1 hour a day when you're not going to be disturbed, because 1 hour, one little measly hour a week, you're actually going to try to do something positive for your business, which is going to help everybody that works for you, everybody who's around you, everybody who depends on you. It's even going to help your clients as you make your law firm better. It's for you, but it's also for them. So if you can't even schedule 1 hour of do not disturb time in your law firm or your law practice, then that is a big wake-up call. That's a big revelation of how badly you're in the whirlwind and how little you're doing to try to make your law firm better and to improve. And I say this not as an insult or as a criticism, but really as a wake-up call. If you're listening to this and you sit there and say, I'm too busy, you don't understand what my life is like, there's no way I could do that, then become aware of that. Because if you don't spend any time improving your business, if you don't do something to make some kind of incremental change, then things are either going to stay the same or get worse. And I would say that if this is the mindset you have, and this is your belief system, that you're unable to do it, then you have to just be aware that that's a major problem. Now, perhaps even saying that, maybe I've triggered you so much that, you turn the podcast off and you're never going to listen to it again, and that's fine. But to do this takes a little bit of discipline. And as you do it, and it works, and you make progress, then you can expand it. Like right now, in my law firm, I have a schedule, and it doesn't say, and this is probably say more advanced. If you go look at my calendar right now, or anybody that works for me looks at my calendar, it doesn't have any appointments on it. It doesn't say until something's scheduled. It has this. I'm not scheduled out of the office. I'm scheduled in it. So certain days of the week, it says, this is when Greg is in the office. And so people know that's when they can set up a phone conference, or that's when they can set up an appointment. Or if I ask them to schedule something because I need to talk to somebody, I'll say, when do you want it? I say, do it when I'm scheduled in the office. And so they see when I have free time, and then they put it on the calendar, and then there it is. So I do it that way, where the assumption is that I'm never in the office. I'm not in the office. I'm not going to be in the office unless it says on the calendar, Greg in office. And this is what it says. If you look at my calendar right now, for every Monday that we're open, every Monday going forward, it says Greg in office, 8:30 to 10, 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. Then it says every Monday, Greg in office, 2:30 p.m. to 5 p.m. And so when I meet with my office manager, my bookkeeper, I meet with them Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 2:30. And we have a 30-minute meeting. Now I have some other meetings. We have a sales meeting. We have a management meeting that are tucked in there as well. And sometimes I need to talk to people. But if I need to talk to somebody, where an email or something like that just won't cut it, I need a phone call or I need a Zoom meeting, then I ask the person that does this in my firm, please schedule this at a time I'm in the office. But also what happens is that I'm not doing it tomorrow. I'm not putting her in a situation where she says, you don't have time tomorrow, so do you want me to cut in? I'm doing, do it over the next week. Find a time over the next week. Find a time over the next 2 weeks. Some things it may be find a time over the next month, but it's usually next week or something like that. And so that just lays out my life because those things are scheduled. My phone calls are scheduled. Excuse me. If somebody calls me and they need to talk to me, then my office is trained to say, oh, he would love to talk to you. He'd be happy to talk to you. Can he call you back this afternoon at 3 o'clock? If it's a client that's disgruntled, they need to meet with me, he can meet with you these days at these times. Which one works for you? And so that's the way that it works. And if you really don't think you can do this, or you don't believe you can do this, I would say to you, and this may seem a little harsh to lay this on you, and it depends on what you want to do with your life, but you will either live with the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. It's one of my favorite quotes. That's something that Jim Rohn said. You will either live with the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And it's a choice we all make. Do you want to discipline yourself to do certain things to change your life or not? Because there's a cost both ways. If you implement and it's difficult and it takes something, it costs something else to do it, that's just the pain of discipline. But if you don't do it and the weeks and months and years click by and you get here in your life where it seems too late to make a change or it seems too late to change your life, whether it's true or not, and you think about all the things you could have done and you wanted to do, then whether you like it or not, you're going to be living with the pain of regret. So it's the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. These things are not that difficult. Once you know what to do, it's just a question of going and doing it. And it may change. You may try it one way and it doesn't work, or you may try it one way and you need to alter it, or something may fail and break. That always happens. But if you're going to change your life, you have to change your life. You have to do something different to get a different result. So that's the lesson for today. learn how to schedule interruptions, work on your business, limit distractions, and over time, you'll start seeing remarkable results. Thanks for listening. If you want to know more, go to prosperitlaw.com. We show criminal defense law firm owners how to reduce stress, have more free time, and make more money. Thanks for listening.